In the small, remote villages of Serbia, an ancient legend is whispered among the locals, one that chills the bones of even the bravest souls. They speak of a woman, cursed to roam the earth, forever bound by sorrow and death. The story begins with Niko, a young boy in 1998, who encountered something beyond the grasp of reason. Niko was walking with his mother down a dusty path after a long day at the market. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the ground. It was then that Niko noticed a figure in the distance, standing perfectly still in the middle of the road. As they drew closer, he saw that it was a woman, her face obscured by a veil, her body motionless, as if waiting for something. Suddenly, the woman began to move, her limbs bending and twisting in ways that defied nature. She danced with an eerie grace, her movements unnatural and unsettling, as though she were being controlled by some unseen force. Niko felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. This was no ordinary dance. It was as if every muscle in her body was moving independently, her bones liquid, her very form a violation of the human condition. The woman's dance grew more frantic, more violent, and before Niko could comprehend what was happening, she charged toward them. Her voice, shrill and filled with malice, rang out through the air. "Your mother's life is mine. I am the ambassador of death, and her soul will feed the ancient king." Niko's mother grabbed his hand, pulling him away as they ran for their lives. But the words of the dancing lady echoed in his mind, even as they fled. That night, his mother fell ill, her health deteriorating rapidly without any apparent cause. Within days, she was gone, leaving Niko to grapple with the horrifying encounter that had foretold her death. Years passed, but the memory of that night never left Niko. He tried to forget, to push the image of the dancing woman from his mind, but her voice haunted him, her movements seared into his memory. He knew she was something otherworldly, something evil, and the fear of her lingered, casting a shadow over his life. In 2019, Solomon, a young man fascinated by the paranormal, stumbled upon Niko's account while browsing online forums. The story intrigued him, and he felt an irresistible urge to uncover the truth. Armed with a camera, Solomon traveled to Serbia, determined to find the woman who had haunted Niko's nightmares for decades. When Solomon arrived in Serbia, he found the locals unwilling to speak of the legend. Their eyes held a mix of fear and pity as they watched him, but no one would share their stories. It was as if they knew something he didn't, as if they were warning him without words. Undeterred, Solomon continued his search, driven by curiosity and a growing obsession. One night, as he wandered through the deserted streets on the outskirts of town, Solomon heard a faint melody carried by the wind. It was a haunting tune, slow and sorrowful, and it pulled him toward an old, crumbling bridge. As he crossed the bridge, the music grew louder, and in the clearing ahead, he saw her, the Serbian Dancing Lady, just as Niko had described. She danced beneath the light of the full moon, her movements both mesmerizing and grotesque. Her body twisted and turned in ways that defied human anatomy, her limbs moving with a grace that seemed to mock the natural order. Solomon stood frozen, unable to look away, though every instinct screamed at him to run. The woman suddenly stopped, her head snapping towards Solomon with unnatural speed. Her eyes, hollow and glowing with a faint blue light, locked onto his, and a cruel smile spread across her face. "Your mother's soul belongs to me now," she hissed, her voice filled with a malevolent glee. Solomon's blood turned to ice. He could feel her words seeping into his soul, a curse that would follow him wherever he went. He turned and fled, not daring to look back, But he knew she was there, just behind him, her presence as tangible as the ground beneath his feet. He ran until he reached his hotel room, slamming the door shut and locking it behind him. The music still echoed in his ears, soft and haunting, as if it had followed him all the way back. The story of the Serbian Dancing Lady spread like wildfire across the internet, with people from all over the world sharing their own experiences, their own encounters with the enigmatic figure. Some claimed she had been apprehended, while others insisted she was still out there, evading capture, her dance continuing in the dark corners of the earth. Despite the growing number of sightings, the authorities remained silent, refusing to comment on the legend. But the locals knew the truth. They knew that the woman was more than just a ghost. She was a curse, a harbinger of death, a soul bound to the earth by an ancient tragedy. The legend of the Serbian Dancing Lady has its roots in a tale of love and loss. In the 19th century, a young woman fell in love with a man from a neighboring village, but their love was forbidden by her family. Heartbroken, she chose to end her life, throwing herself from a cliff rather than live without him. But death did not bring her peace. Instead, her spirit was cursed to wander the earth, dancing through the night, forever searching for the souls of the living to join her in her eternal sorrow. They say that to see her dance is to be marked for death, that those who witness her movements are doomed to join her in the afterlife. And as the legend has grown, so too has the fear that accompanies it. For the Serbian Dancing Lady is no longer just a story. It is a living nightmare, a reminder that some things are best left forgotten, buried or deep in the shadows where they belong. But in the age of the internet, where nothing stays hidden for long, the legend of the Serbian Dancing Lady has found new life. It has become a tale of terror that continues to spread, its roots digging deeper into the collective fear of those who dare to listen. And for those who seek her out, the question remains, what price are you willing to pay to uncover the truth? For in the end, some stories are better left untold.